Welcome, welcome, welcome. How's it going, guys?
Hi.
Hey.
Happy post-election day. Are you guys glad it's over with?
Yes.
We did it. We made it. We made it through. There's
We
no
made
civil
it through.
war.
I think the best news is that there is, as far as I know, this is not a contested election. It's a very clear, decisive victory, so we can move on.
Yes. Well said. That is a very good outcome as far as, uncertainty and the potential for, weird stuff to happen. At least we know the result.
The markets really like it. So today last night I'm like trying to wind down and go to sleep, and I'm watching Bitcoin's price action, and I'm also refreshing on the poly markets, and I'm like, oh shit, the Trump numbers are going up. Oh, look at Bitcoin, it's following. And they were like directly correlated, even like down on a few minutes. And I'm like, oh my God, we're going for it. We're going to go for this all-time high overnight as the election results come in. So that was kind of fun. Like it was interesting to see that, Trav, you and I did the live stream, was it last week? And we came right below the all-time high. And the market was like, oh, I'm going to pump the brakes and then wait for the election results. And the clearer it got that the anti-crypto army was going to get crushed, Bitcoin said, now is the time.
Gensler is out of here. Get him out.
That's right, man. Gensler is gone.
Warren is still around, though, unfortunately for you guys, right?
Yep. She's unfortunately, John Deaton was not able to beat her, but who also is in power? Our friend and the best insider trader of all time, Nancy Pelosi. Let's give it up for the GOAT of legally using insider information to enrich herself.
Well, at least everyone can follow her, right? I guess.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's no stopping the grift. I mean, that no matter who you've got in power, the grift continues.
This is very true. Guys, okay, so I think we're streaming on YouTube. It might be, I know it's on my channel. We might also be streaming on the We Talk Money channel. And I think we're streaming on X for the first time. So yeah, if you guys can see this and hear us, if you're in chat, throw us a hell yeah. And a like, because the algorithm hates us now because I'm the world's most inconsistent YouTuber. But yeah, let's just let the algorithm know that we're out here and we're ready for these all-time highs, baby. Well, we also got stocks that are popping. Man, we've got so much to look at today, from Palantir, MicroStrategy, Coinbase. What else is up, guys?
Tesla, private prisons, financials like Discover. There's a lot of stuff that's popping off. The Fannie Mae preferreds, those stocks have come back to life from the dead. So yeah, there's quite a lot moving, and on the downside too. And we've got weed stocks and solar stocks getting hit pretty hard. Perceived, companies or stocks that are perceived as losers in a China-US trade war are down. Chinese stocks are down a little bit. So yeah, there's definitely some pretty big Trump trades being put on, or at least the extension of the Trump trades that were already in place before the election. So yeah, we're seeing big moves today. The Russell index up over 5%. I mean, small cap shitcos are running.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Russell is testing a big resistance level, baby. If we snap that, this could be good for small cap going into 2025.
Mm-hmm. I think the Fed is on the side of the small caps too at this point, with another cut expected, which we can talk about. But
yeah, we've also got a rate decision coming tomorrow. Man, crazy week.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And by the way, the bond market's also responding. You've got yields up quite a bit on the 10-year and the 30-year. So, the 10-year and the 30-year have basically ripped higher in the past month or two, wiping out any of the decline in mortgage rates that we had from the Fed lowering rates in September. So yeah, any rate sensitive companies or stocks look like they might be feeling a little bit of pressure here. And the Fed honestly might be feeling some pressure. The Fed's got to be wondering, should we really be cutting rates now with market interest rates ripping higher and markets ripping higher, risk assets? It's going to make their job of fighting inflation a lot harder, certainly.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. We'll talk about all the implications and more. I've got a note that says Trav's audio is a little low. If you guys can hear us clearly, just give us the thumbs up. If there's an issue, just let us know and we'll try to troubleshoot on the fly. But we are live today. It is Wednesday, November 6th. And personally, I like doing these live because it's more interactive and it's a lot more fun for me to do this. But we also just have so much to talk about. We didn't want to wait and risk the recording not getting out in time. So we are here with you guys live in person.
Yes. How's the mic? Is it any better? I turned it up a little bit. I don't want to be ripping your eardrums, but
it does sound good to me. So we'll see.
Sounds good on my end too.
Cool. All right. Cool. Y'all let me know.
Okay. So let's, I guess, start by talking about why the markets are up today, right? And let's actually start by looking at the charts and talking about what is happening. So, for the last several months, we've been beating this drum of this bull flag that's been playing out above 60K, right? We've had this big line in the sand. And then if we zoom in on the daily, most recently, over the last month, we've started to make higher highs, higher lows, and the pressure has just been building to the upside. And then last week, Trav and I did the live stream with you guys where we came just shy of that all-time high. And then we had a pullback, which actually gave us another higher low. And then yesterday, when it was becoming apparent that Trump was going to win the election, the markets really liked that and then finally had the confidence to snap into a new all-time high. And we're currently putting in what looks to be like a little bull flag on the hourly chart. So we're sitting just shy of 75,000 United States dollars. Man, let's give it up for Bitcoin.
Wow.
It is impressive.
Man, it has been a wild past decade, man, to see the gains that that Bitcoin's done, not just against the dollar, but also just like changing lives around the world and, helping people get out of poverty. And man, it's just been one hell of a roller coaster and just fun journey that we've been on.
Yeah, I can confirm by work that I do with my clients that it really is changing lives for them. Like their Bitcoin investments are changing their lives. It's awesome, pretty awesome.
Yeah, what are you saying? Are people retiring off their Bitcoin? What are they doing?
They're either close to retiring or they can retire now. Some people are able to buy a home now that they wouldn't be able to buy before, which will help them in retirement. So just all kinds of different scenarios are popping up on my side. And as many people know, my clients are crypto focused, they're crypto heavy, and that can be risky. But fortunately for right now, everything's really working out in their favor. And it's all about managing those gains, right? To your advantage. So, and being smart about harvesting gains.
Yep, absolutely. Well, guys, give it up for Bitcoin and everybody that has made life-changing gains over the past several either market cycles or years. And if you're new to the party, welcome. One of the biggest questions we always get is, well, okay, great, Bitcoin's at all-time highs, but what if we don't have any, or what if we, are kind of late to the game? My quote that I love to say all the time is there's always another trade right around the corner. It could be Bitcoin. It could be altcoins. It could be stocks. It could be startups. There is always another trend or an opportunity or market cycle or trade setup. The markets aren't going anywhere. And we have so much access to information and financial markets that you can be anywhere in the world and create life-changing wealth for you and your family. So if you're new, welcome. If you're an OG, welcome back. It's good to see everybody. Again, go ahead and like this up. Let the algo know that we're getting started. And yeah, we'll just jump into the charts. We'll go through some predictions. We'll talk about what happened and why, and then get into some Q&A. Awesome. David says, Chris, I remember buying Bitcoin at $200 with you and Rocky back in 2015. Hell yeah, wow. Man. Crazy times.
That's an OG right there.
That
Oh, yeah.
is.
Nice,
That
David.
is.
How do you like your 300 bagger?
Yep. Yeah, looking back, it was weird. We were in the trading room buying at 188, and I remember thinking like, this is either going to be the dumbest move of my life or like change everything completely. And I'm glad it went the change everything completely route.
Me
Yeah.
too. Me too.
Awesome. Yeah, we got a bunch of OGs in here today. Mastermind, same here since 250. Yeah, Manny, I know you've been with us for a long time. Hell yeah. All right, guys.
Yay.
Well, where do we start? So I was doing some TA on Bitcoin, just kind of showing the live market right now. We talked about how I've been posting on Twitter the past couple of months, just how all of the large time frames were showing bullishness. And from the yearly chart up here in the top left to the monthly chart to the weekly chart and then down to the daily. And so when you can see these setups just line up so clearly, it's very cool to see this stuff play out. Let's talk about just kind of the bigger picture too. We've got Bitcoin dominance, which is continuing its trek higher, which means that Bitcoin is continuing to eat at the total percentage of the market cap of the crypto sphere. And when this bull market started back in early 2023, I said that I thought this was going to be a bull cycle for Bitcoin, but alts were going to flounder because just so many people got really burned by the FTX thing, right? And so we've seen Bitcoin gaining. So even though, we have some outliers like Solana, which are really starting to pump today, and, even some OG stuff like ETH is up 10%. A lot of these have either been kind of tracking Bitcoin or underperforming them. So it'll be interesting to see if we get that capital flow. And I actually had a couple crypto like news sites and stuff reach out today asking for opinions. And they said, when is retail going to come back? Because retail hasn't been here, guys. Like if you look at the Google trends, we've been talking about how the Bitcoin search term has been at multi-year lows, and Bitcoin loves to make the biggest moves when nobody's in the market, right? So just recently have we seen this little pop, but for the last couple of months, this has been floundering down here. So if we zoom in, let's just say over the past like 90 days, you can see for the first time this week with the election stuff, people are just now coming back. So a lot of people missed the run, obviously from 15 to 30. And then very few people on the retail side were in prior to the ETF approvals. And so, I think we still have a long way to go here during this 4-hour halving cycle and just overall bull cycle. What do you guys think? Just taking a look at the bigger picture here and what you guys are seeing out there. Is the bull market just getting started? Are we halfway through? Is it late cycle? Is this a trap and we're going into a bear market? Trav, Nick, what do you guys think?
It's pretty clear we've been in a bull market since really 2023 in stocks, at least. And, the bull market could be intensifying here. We are entering kind of a new era of this bull market in the sense that we're seeing a broadening out, like we mentioned at the start of the stream, how small caps are really participating now in a big way. You have a potential for some pretty fundamental changes, at least in the U.S. economy, when it comes to things like deregulation, when it comes to M&A being back on the table. The FTC and the DOJ have really been fighting mergers and things like that. So that'll be back on the table. I imagine IPOs will come back to the forefront as well. So there's going to be, I think, a more risk-taking type of environment. We've also got, the potential for the tax cuts to be extended. And so there are a lot of potential fundamental positives here. Now, we do have to be a little bit careful in the sense that we are still at relatively high valuations in some sectors and with some stocks. There's probably a bit of an AI bubble. There's probably some stuff that's already showing frothiness. So, it's not like everything's going straight to the moon right away. And we are still dealing with higher interest rates than we had a couple of years ago. So, it is a different environment than we had in 2021, but there are certain signs that things are heating up in a risk on way. And I think, that could take a lot of stocks a lot higher over the next year.
Well said. Nick, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think that this is a very interesting point in the markets here, especially when I'm talking about the S&P 500. Like Trav mentioned, the valuations are, it's not cheap to buy the S&P 500 right now. And it doesn't seem to be getting any cheaper unless earnings really, really blow out of the water over the next quarter or two. But I think that it's a challenging time to be allocating cash. And that's why I actually think the market could end up being fueled higher, because a lot of people still are in cash or have a lot of cash. Maybe they're not, they've been allocating, but the challenge here is it's expensive to buy stocks, but a lot of people probably do have treasuries that are maturing. I'm seeing it in my own client portfolios. Treasuries are starting to mature, and it's like, okay, well, what do I do with this capital now? And a lot of people are probably going to be forced into risk assets. And so I think that this rally can end up being driven a lot higher than people expect, even with the frothy, expensive, valuation multiple that we're seeing right now. Just simply for the fact that what are people going to do as rates are going lower? They have all these treasuries that are going to be maturing because a lot of people went on the short end of the curve, short-term treasuries, a lot of money markets. And so now they're having to make these decisions about allocation. And it's a tough place to be, I think, for people deploying fresh capital. But at the same time, I can see a 2021 type environment happening again, which is kind of crazy to say. Trav, tell me if you agree or disagree with this, but you remember 2021, everybody was risk on, every trade worked, every breakout was banging, it was just crazy. And people thought these prices can't go any higher. Like, this is ridiculous. And I can almost see that happening in not only the broad indices, but a lot of individual names, your Nvidia, your Palantir, whatever else is hot, right now. So I think that risk is on and the trend is strong, and it's going to be really hard to fight that trend right now, despite valuation and fundamentals. That will come into play again, as it always does, as we know very well. Fundamentals always eventually matter again, but I can see us moving into a period where they don't really matter as much, especially if people are excited about Trump potentially, helping the economy thrive or continue to thrive, whatever your viewpoint is.
When we look at the charts, Nikki, to your point about that, there's a lot of things that are like either breaking out of multi-month resistance levels or looking like they're putting in like some kind of short squeeze. And when that happens, it's kind of like stepping in front of a train if you're going to try to short that, right? Obviously, things can trap, but I think you were saying this, but I agree that, we're in kind of what looks to be like a buying begets more buying situation where, shorts get squeezed, which causes buy stop market orders, breakout buyers add to the momentum, potential sellers pull off of the ask side of the order book, and that just creates this kind of waterfall of buying activity. How long is that sustainable for? That's yet to be seen. But, whenever you look at breakouts on the indices, right? So we've got obviously like the ES and the NQ that are coming up and tagging new all-time highs. We'll see if that holds up by the end of the day. We've also got stuff like Tesla and then Palantir, which broke out of its accumulation range and the prior all-time high from 2021, right? So you had this big kind of rounding pattern, and then on earnings, they blew earnings out and then gap and go. So, just feeling a lot of momentum out there.
A lot. I'm seeing it from like my trader side is kind of, you guys, a lot of I do have a trader side. And it's coming out. Like, I'm seeing all of these charts and I'm like, ooh, these technicals are looking really enticing. And so I know I'm not the only person seeing that. So I can't help but wonder if like the trader is going to come back out to play and move a lot of these things further than people expect or valuations, justify.
Yep. All right. Let's talk about why Bitcoin popped last night, right? What the hell happened? Well, obviously there was a red wave, and as of right now, I believe it's looking like they're going to get the House. Trav, do you agree with that?
Yeah, it seems like they've obviously got the Senate wrapped up, but the House is closer, but it does look like they may have the edge there as well. The Republicans, that is.
Yeah. So they called the Senate. They've exceeded the 50, and then obviously the presidential race was a decisive victory. And then one thing I thought was like super interesting was the shifts from 2020. So if we look at this map, what this shows is the net change either to the right or to the left from the 2020 election. And for a majority of the US, there was a significant shift towards the right, especially in places like Florida. So if we take a look at this and then do the shift from 2020 map, Miami had, what was the percentage? It was almost a 19-point shift from Biden to now back to Trump on this go around, from Harris to Trump. So yeah, pretty extreme moves in some of these states. And I think that's why, it's just such a clear, decisive victory. And again, we're not here to give you like our political beliefs. We're just here to talk about what happened and how we think it's going to impact the markets. But one thing that I thought was interesting is to talk about why Bitcoin specifically moved so aggressively with Trump. Like, why does it matter? And I think the answer is that he was super vocal about not being shy about the fact that he was pro Bitcoin. And yeah, politicians lie and they say stuff sometimes, but he was going to conferences and made a bunch of promises. One that I think is super cool is he has promised to commute Ross Ulbricht's sentence, the founder of the Silk Road, who's been in jail for I think 11 years now. And, he got sentenced a life sentence where it turns out he was actually set up by some FBI agents that I believe actually end up, they went to jail because they stole a bunch of Bitcoin. So it's just a big shit show. So that's kind of, I think a cool piece, but the bigger piece of like the pro Bitcoin side is he wants to lay out the US and position us to be a leader in the Bitcoin and crypto space, where on the Dem side, unfortunately, they made it a partisan issue. They, Elizabeth Warren created this stupid anti-crypto army, which really, I don't know who would be behind that for any reason, but they leaned into that. They leaned into the anti-innovation, anti-crypto narrative. And so Trump has come out and said he's, very much opposed to central bank digital currencies. He wants to protect Bitcoin mining rights. He wants to form a crypto advisory council. And I think most importantly is fire old Gary Gensler, who's been kind of like the evil uncle trying to beat up all the crypto startups in the US and drive innovation and capital outside of the US.
Yeah, that's right. I think the inconsistency with policy was extremely frustrating. The good actors within crypto who tried to comply with what the SEC wanted were still slapped with lawsuits and sanctions. And so those kinds of moves were perplexing and baffling. Like even in TradFi, traditional finance circles, there was the battle over the ETFs for so long until they finally relented. There was the, just the obstinate nature of the regulators, the bureaucracy that grew over the last few years within the financial regulatory space, I think was frustrating to a lot of investors, to a lot of business people. And so a rollback of that part of the bureaucracy, so to speak, I think is a positive. Generally, I really do. I mean, not every deregulation is a positive, but I think in a lot of cases there was just inconsistency in policy. You didn't even know where the line was. You didn't even know, a lot of firms and businesses that are trying to build, technology and businesses, when they can't have certainty around what the rules even are, what are the rules of the game? You can't even define them for us. That's a real problem. Gensler turned out to be a bit of a snake in that respect.
Yeah, I mean, I tell this story a lot, but back in 2018, Gensler actually came when he left the CFTC and he was just kind of in between jobs. He came to a crypto party in San Francisco and was playing nice with everybody and was coming to all the like cocktail happy hours and shit. And little did we know he would turn out to be somewhat the enemy. And it's unfortunate that he went that way. Like you said, Trav, it was just the inconsistencies and just the I guess letting his own personal bias get in the way. So hopefully we see that do a 180 in the US and just allow us to have some true innovation.
At least we got the Bitcoin E ETFs.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. They fought hard as hell
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
push that away, but yeah.
But it happened.
So
Yeah.
let's show a little video of some of the things that Trump actually had to say about Bitcoin and crypto in the US.
Hello, Bitcoiners. On day one, I will fire Gary Gensler. I will appoint a new SEC chairman who believes America should build the future, not block the future. Upon taking office, I will immediately appoint a Bitcoin and crypto presidential advisory council. Their task will be to design transparent regulatory guidance for the benefit of the entire industry, and they will get it done in 100 days. As part of our effort to provide regulatory clarity, we will create a framework to enable the safe and responsible expansion of stable coins. I will ensure that the future of crypto and the future of Bitcoin will be made in the USA, not driven overseas. I will support the right to self-custody. I will keep Elizabeth Warren and her goons away from your Bitcoin. It will be the policy of my administration, United States of America, to keep 100% of all the Bitcoin the U.S. government currently holds or acquires into the future. This will serve in effect as the core of the strategic national Bitcoin stockpile. Today, I repeat my pledge to commute
So,
the sentence
let's
of
keep it going.
Ross Ulbricht to
There
a
we go.
sentence of time served. It's enough. And I will never allow the creation of a central bank digital currency. Bitcoin is going to the moon, as we say. It's going to the moon. I want America to be the nation that leads the way, and that's what's going to happen. No, you're going to be very happy with me.
Hey,
All right. So great job to the guy that put that together. But man, yeah, I mean, when you have a politician that is saying all those things, whether you believe them or not, and then you have another politician that's just being kind of slimy and won't really commit to anything, won't say anything blatantly anti-Bitcoin, but also won't support it, that causes it to be a partisan issue. And I know we've seen a lot of the people on the left that have been in power start to kind of walk back some of their anti-crypto statements because they realize it's a very, very, very unpopular take in the US. And who doesn't want innovation, man? This is a country of growth and wealth builders, and Bitcoin is for everybody. It's not just for Republicans. It should be for everybody.
Well
I think that, Bitcoin investors take their Bitcoin very seriously, and that was underestimated. It's like there could be so many different policy things that you disagree with a candidate, but once they're like, hey, we're going to limit your ability to buy and hold Bitcoin or whatever, we're going to regulate the crap out of this. People that own Bitcoin because of the sovereignty and like just the nature behind what crypto represents for them, or Bitcoin specifically, what it represents for them, it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. And I, that's what the problem was probably in the crypto community when it came to going to the polls. That was probably an issue that was meaningful enough to sway people in one direction or the other. If I had to guess, of course, I don't know the answer to that, but if I had to guess, the crypto community, especially people that own Bitcoin, probably thought about that heavily.
One of our OGs, Ongun, mentioned something in chat here. A couple people actually did that. The idea of the U.S. government buying Bitcoin as a strategic reserve may be in play here too, which could be a big deal. Honestly, the U.S.
Could it
government
get us out
balance
of
sheet
debt?
is not small. I don't think it's going to be on the table, day one, but I wouldn't rule it out. There's definitely some potential there.
I mean, corporations are doing it. They're putting it on their balance sheets, and it seems to have performed pretty well. I mean, we're at all-time highs. So it is an interesting thought experiment of the government, dipping into that more, leaning into that. And what that
to
could do.
me is the ultimate like bull case, because think about what would happen if the US said, okay, we're going to start stockpiling Bitcoin like we did gold. right? What does that do to other governments? Well, it puts a lot of pressure on them to not get left behind. And this is kind of the idea of the waterfall that I've talked about, is once you have one government that turns on the faucet, and then you have a second, a third, it's like slowly, then all at once, right? And you don't want to get left behind. And we're already seeing the bull case on the equity side start to play out with MicroStrategy, right? And this is obviously higher risk, but it's working. And let's just talk about what MicroStrategy is doing today. So, had a little bit of volatility last night and then pre-market. And as of right now, it's up 13% from the open. And it's still hanging around that first profit target that we talked about. I actually bought this at 200 on the resistance breakout. And I've got some other profit targets based on Fibonacci extension tools. But this is just one way to play it from the corporate treasury side. But what happens when, as you guys said, the governments actually start to stockpile this stuff? Things are going to get really weird really quick.
Yeah, and
Big if.
MicroStrategy, they pulled out the bazooka with the offering. I would guess they're probably selling some of that $21 billion at the market offering today. I mean, I would hope that they're in the market selling some stock at this massive premium to NAV, and they'll use that to buy more Bitcoin holdings. So, yeah, it's the train is rolling. It's rolling down the tracks with momentum.
Yep. Yeah, we'll see if they were just bullshitting us or if it actually plays out. I'm bullish until I get reasons not to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we've got price holding up. We just crossed back over 75K, and this is the hourly chart. Oh, no, that's the yearly chart. This is the hourly chart. You can see this is last night's push. And actually,
I think you're on MicroStrategy still.
yeah, hang on.
Yeah.
I need to change to window. There we go. Can you guys see the hourly
Yeah.
chart? Okay. Yeah. So this was last night's push to all-time highs. We went over under 75K, and then we've been holding up, making some higher lows into this. So we're now coming into the afternoon session in the US stock market hours. So people are coming back from lunch, and it looks like price is actually still holding up. So let's check on indices as well. If we take a look at the SPY, this will show you that gap from last night. So it's kind of interesting that today we're looking at a ton of gaps on things like, obviously MicroStrategy and Tesla. And let's talk about some of the Trump trades. So DJT, how's that thing doing today? It's kind of a gap fest.
Yeah, it's been a bit volatile. I've seen some interesting arguments that actually, that it could be a short because, Trump will have to sell his stock or sell his stake in the company once he's president. He may be able to get around that in some ways, but, some people are speculating that could be an actual downside catalyst for DJT. Whether he'll be able to even be involved at all as president, there's questions there. So yeah, it had a big move yesterday, but it's been very choppy and very volatile. And so this is also one where the underlying business doesn't really have much revenue. It doesn't really have a whole lot of fundamentals that you could get behind here to figure out what price you'd want to own it at. This thing could trade for any price, just based on gamblers, basically.
It's like a meme coin.
It's a meme stock to
Meme
me.
stock. Yeah.
At this point. And,
Yep.
When you listen to Trump and Elon talk together or, talk about each other and about X, I feel like X kind of does everything that Truth Social maybe was trying to do. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's some arguments against that, but it seems to be that X is being known as the place to get your news that's not censored. Everything's community noted. So there's this open source type of situation that you can't find anywhere else. So I don't know, like, is there really a need for Truth Social? at this
Mm.
point with X.
I think this election really demonstrated that X, like how important it really was that Elon bought X. I was skeptical at first, and of course it's not perfect, but when you look at the repression of information that you see on mainstream media, and then even on like, the other big platforms, even, Reddit I used to really enjoy Reddit. And now every time I go on there, it just looks like a communist hellhole. It's like everything gets repressed. Even if you look at like the top post on politics, the politics subreddit, it was every single, if you sort by top on the day, here, actually, we could do that right now. It was all left-leaning stuff. And so let's do this. I'll pull this up. So if you go to our politics and then do top today, look how it's okay. Bernie Sanders, Democrat wins North Carolina, clips of shitting on Joe Rogan.
Wow.
You could argue though that X is the opposite. That everything's right leaning on X. That's what I've noticed, at least. So you could argue that they're just kind of taking their lanes. They're choosing their lane.
At least there's, more freedom of speech on X, as far as I can tell, right? And the community notes are great. It's just one of those things where, like if you are saying some bullshit, you're gonna get noted. And there's a whole subreddit for getting noted too. So, but and one thing I thought was interesting, like the mega thread on the election, if you read the comments here, this is actually pretty wild. Okay, so check this out. This is the mega thread of the election, and if you read these comments, and people are just discussing like the big swing from left to right, and people are just blown away. They're blown away that this happened, and I think it caught a lot of people off guard. And what causes that? Well, I think people kind of live in their little like echo chambers, right? And there was another video I wanted to show, which was actually a guy on CNN who was talking about what happened and why so many people on the left were either dissuaded with the Harris campaign or, just didn't vote. And I think there was a $20 million or 20 million votes basically missing, or less than the last election. Let's just take a look at that real quick, because I think this video is pretty interesting.
This is a mandate. Has won the national popular vote for the first time for a Republican for the first time since 2004. This is a big deal. This isn't backing into the office. This is a mandate to do what you said you were going to do. Get the economy working again for regular working class Americans, fix immigration, try to get crime under control, try to reduce the chaos in the world. This is a mandate from the American people to do that. I think I'm interpreting the results tonight as the revenge of just the regular old working class American, the anonymous American who has been crushed, insulted, condescended to. They're not garbage. They're not Nazis. They're just regular people who get up and go to work every day and are trying to make a better life for their kids. And they feel like they have been told to just shut up when they have complained about the things that are hurting them in their own lives. I also feel like this election, as we sit here and pour over this tonight, is something of an indictment of the political information complex. I mean, we've been sitting around here for the last couple of weeks, and the story that was portrayed was not true. I mean, we were told Puerto Rico was going to change the election. Liz Cheney, Nikki Haley voters, women lying to their husbands. Before that, it was Tim Walz and the camo hats. Night after night after night, we were told all these things and gimmicks were going to somehow push Harris over the line. And we were just ignoring the fundamentals. Inflation, people feeling like that they were barely able to tread water at best. That was the fundamentals of the election. And so I think that both parties should always look at the results of an election and figure out what went right and what went wrong. But I think for all of us who cover elections and talk about elections and do this on a day-to-day basis, we have to figure out how to understand, talk to, and listen to the half of the country that rose up tonight and said, we've had enough.
And it seems like, these people in the mainstream media are realizing that, the Joe Rogans of the world and podcasts and places like X are dominating the narrative and really persuading people much more than these extremely biased mainstream news sources.
Did you guys listen to the Joe Rogan interviews?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were good. Like that's I would have loved to hear the other side go on the Joe Rogan podcast and have that type of conversation.
How
Yeah.
I think
stupid
that's
was
what
it that
people
she
want.
didn't go? She didn't make it a priority. That to
I
me was a
think
huge faux pas.
Americans are starting to see through the bullshit, so to speak, because like the debates are a joke. I mean, the debates do nothing for Americans. There were so many questions that I left the debate asking. I was like, oh, they didn't address childcare. They didn't address all of these different things that people really give a crap about. And so the debate is just a complete flawed thing. And so that's why I think that the podcasting, whether I mean I'm sure there were other than Joe Rogan, I can't recall,
Yeah.
but
There were tons. Yeah.
there
Patrick
were
Bet
tons.
David had, I mean, these guys had millions and millions and millions of views, way more than CNN, way more than Fox.
Yeah, and it's like that's the way Americans can actually hear more about how a candidate really is and what they really believe and like the realness of it. Americans love realness. They want realness. That's what social media is doing.
I think
So I don't know. I just think that Kamala may have messed up by not participating in that.
Yeah, and I think, maybe Joe Rogan could have done more to accommodate her busy schedule. Maybe he could have said, "Hey, I'm willing to travel to you, but make a compromise where he's like, but I'm not willing to just do an hour soundbite interview," right? He wants to do a long, in-depth interview where he can get a lot of questions answered, right? That was one of his issues. He's like, I wanted to do 3 hours. Kamala said 1 hour max. Like maybe what they could have done is, yeah, maybe she doesn't come to Austin, you come to her, but then you can have her team needs to find a 3-hour block or whatever it is, right? There's ways to accommodate that. I'll say in the future, I think pretty much every candidate now is going to want to go on Rogan, even though it may not have even mattered, right? For most voters. But one other thing, I think is worth mentioning is that you kind of have to make an effort to get out of the media bubble that you're in. That's why, I listen to people like Rogan, other podcasters as well, other sources of media, because like I want to hear the longer conversations, but also, I think like it's really important to force yourself out of the bubbles. Like, we'll get our left wing leaning media through like traditional newspapers and sites and things like that. You'll get your, maybe it's more of a right leaning stuff on X. You have to pull yourself out of those bubbles, because like if you don't pull yourself out or see yourself from the 1,000-foot perspective and realize like you're being fed that agenda, I guess, in any one place, you got to actually make an effort to go see multiple places and hear those candidates in the extended versions of what they're saying. Because what happens is like you see these short Instagram clips or these short TikTok clips or these little media headlines, right? And they're going to be so biased and they're going to cherry pick the things that fit their viewpoint. But these 3-hour conversations where you can really sit down and hear what someone has to say, like I was listening to the JD Vance one the other day, and the way he was portrayed in mainstream media is very different. Like his viewpoints, even what he believes, like they're like, oh, he hates women. He's like Project 2025 kind of guy. And then you go listen to him on Rogan and he sounds like your average American in terms of what he believes. He's like, he's not trying to take every right away from women. He's not trying to, he has very nuanced views about a lot of topics and about what they think, America should have in terms of policy. So I think it's really important that if you do find yourself in one platform, get outside the platform, go find the longer conversations, force yourself to hear the other side's perspective. It's really important.
Here, man. Totally agree with that. I think our generation specifically, like, we grew up with the internet and we've had access to information where like the boomers and maybe even older Gen X, like they had to rely on mainstream media. And so maybe they trust it. I heard, maybe this was on Rogan, I heard this, that, the average age of like a CNN viewer is 70, average, right? Wow. So, our generation, what are we doing? We're watching live streams on YouTube and X. And we're listening to podcasts when we're working out and driving. And I think people, like Nick said, they're just tired of the bullshit. They're tired of the, the
fakeness,
the narrative. It's like if a politician can go out there and have a deep, long conversation, like you're going to learn much more that way than just listening to sound bites or like gotcha moments.
It's interesting with Rogan too, because even he is polarizing to people because a lot of people perceive him, particularly in like intellectual circles. Like I have a lot of friends from, college with advanced degrees, and they're like, oh, Rogan's just like a dipshit bro, whatever. They've never really taken the time to listen. And, a couple of years ago, I made it a thing to like, okay, he's got some long form interviews with interesting people, like right, left, middle, scientists, comedians. He goes really across the spectrum. I'm like, okay, there must be something here. Same thing with like Lex Friedman or other people like that do these longer interviews, Darquesh or whoever it may be, right? Like they're, I don't know. I just get frustrated when people like, particularly like people that should be, have intellectual depth, right? And yet they're just writing off someone with depth that they're just like ignoring because they think based on some persona that they've created in their mind or that the media has created in their mind. Sure, Rogan's not perfect. Lex Friedman's not perfect. Do I like disagree with the ways that they ask questions sometimes? Yeah, like they don't follow up on certain issues. They don't like, there's certain parts of interviews that I hate, but it's like, at the same time, it's like, no, they're not what you've been told. Like they're not dipshit bros. Like there's a reason that Rogan's like one of the most popular podcasters in the world. There's a reason he's getting guests on that have depth. I mean, he's had Bernie Sanders on, right? So it's like, you have to go see it for yourself, just go listen for yourself. Yeah.
I think
Hear,
it's
hear.
hard because I feel like our political landscape today, like people are losing friends and family over political beliefs and over who people listen to. So it's like, I know friends of mine personally that if they found out I listened to Joe Rogan, they would probably like be mad at me and be like, why would you listen to that a-hole and blah, blah, blah,
Mhm.
and I fortunately for me, I can kind of mesh anywhere and blend in and I get along with everybody no matter what, but there are people out there that will really kind of berate people for listening to somebody that's not on their side. And I think that's the problem is everybody's being pigeonholed into whatever their side is listening to and who they're listening to, that if you listen to somebody else or try to get a different point of view, you're against that side. And I hate seeing people lose friends and family over politics. It's really sad, honestly. And I know that Ramit posted a bunch of stuff about people, hiding their vote from their spouse and just all kinds of different things that are happening out there that just I feel like we could do better. I feel
Nikki,
like we can do better.
I got a text this morning from someone close to me that I thought was interesting, and I want to
Okay.
read it. And it says, should I dump my whole portfolio into cash and just see what's going to happen next year? I'm panicking. I don't know what to do.
Wow.
I mean, that's just that's extreme.
Right.
Well, I mean that's how emotional this becomes for some people, right? Like they
I know.
believe a narrative that if one side wins, the world's
It's
going to go to
over.
shit, and you might as well, become a prepper or move overseas or something. Those things aren't necessarily bad things, but yeah, they're willing to throw it all away because they think everything's gonna go to shit. And I think we live in a society where people are so isolated intellectually, right?
Yeah.
And so one thing I like to do, because I realize I have blind spots, but as an investor, I realize that blind spots can cost you a lot of money. So
Yeah.
I try to see what my blind spots are and then expose them. So for an example, I realized this go around, I was listening to a lot of conservative media, and I was listening to how, conservatives and Trump specifically were being pro Bitcoin. And I'm like, who are some smart liberals that maybe I disagree with? I want to at least know what their points are. So like Professor Galloway, Scott Galloway, I love the guy. Like, I think he's brilliant. He's a very successful entrepreneur. He's a capitalist, even though he's super left. But I listen to the Prof G pod. He has multiple shows, and one is politically driven, and he was super, super pro Harris. And I learned some things, right, by listening to people that I disagree with. And I think it's just really dangerous if you only get your information from one source or one quote unquote side.
Yeah.
I think that's why Joe Rogan is so popular, because he does that. He looks at he's always talking to all kinds of different people. And I don't know, maybe there's something to that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And hey,
All right.
I'll go listen to Caller Daddy or whatever else is out there on the other side, right?
That's
Like,
where I draw the line.
Oh yeah.
I mean, look, I'll give it a shot. Like I do. I really do. Like I'll give it a shot, man. Like
I'll
wanna
let
hear
you go
these
watch that one and report back. How about that?
So there's an interesting parallel to investing here, which is that I always tell my students in the stock boot camp, like you have to go to the primary source of documents. You have to go look at the company press release, the company's quarterly filing, go read the transcript of the earnings call. And the reason that I say that, and go look at the numbers for yourself, because there's a lot of like shares that get reshared on Twitter or people that come up with narratives. There's a lot of financial conspiracy theories now.
Yep.
You know, there are people that are calling like NVIDIA an accounting fraud right now, like things like that. Like there's just some really funky stuff, right? And there's things that get reported in the media, like even stuff like around like Buffett, what Buffett is doing with selling some of his positions, right? The narrative becomes Buffett raising more cash than he's ever had in his portfolio. What does he know? And it's like, well, it could just be that one, his portfolio is the largest it's ever been. So his cash position is also going to be the largest it's ever been. He may have been taking profits ahead of a shift in leadership at Berkshire as he nears the end of his life. He may have been taking profits because he was concerned about a potential higher tax rate. He may have just been taking profits on Apple because it trades at 30 times earnings and he bought it at 12 times earnings, right? So like there's these like financial conspiracies that happen in investing. And like I always say, like you cannot read the Yahoo Finance headlines. You cannot read the headlines that you see in some tweet. You cannot judge like a company's performance based on that, or even based on its stock chart. You know, you got to go look at the primary documents and like make a determination for yourself on what you think the reality of the situation actually is. That's really important in investing as well.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And I always say, when in doubt, let price action be the guide. So let's let price be the guide. What is the price action telling us today, guys? Well, I call this technical pattern the flying middle finger uppercut to shorts. Coming to grab your stops. There we go. Will it close above 75? We'll see. If we drill down intraday, we can see a 1, 2, 3, 4 potential breakout pattern here. We are testing the current all-time high, which is at 75,383 on the Trading View Index. So yeah, we'll see if we get this afternoon rush. We've also got stocks that are holding up. So we're seeing a lot of correlation today in risk assets in general, except for gold, which is actually selling off pretty hard. I think it's down just shy of 3% on the day. Looks like a pullback. I mean, this has been so overextended. Pulling back to tag the 50 period moving average on the daily chart. We've got small cap, which is breaking out of a huge inverse head and shoulders pattern. So this, I think, is a really, really good sign for small cap, and something that we talked about in our wealth building retreat last month in Austin?
No, it was 2 months ago.
2 months
September.
ago.
Time flies.
September. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in September, some of you guys came to hang out with us for a few days in Austin, and we were showing a bunch of patterns of smaller cap stocks that have just been beat to death. And we're in like these accumulation range patterns, and a lot of those have started to pop off. Do you guys want to talk about any plays that you've been taking or looking at, or sectors or anything, maybe on the kind of the Trump sympathy side of things that could really start to move here?
Well, I think there's going to be some surprises. So I've been on record, you know, since the beginning of the year saying that I think Chinese stocks could have some relative outperformance, and that they offer value that I think is interesting, with some potential catalysts on the table as well. Now, Chinese stocks are down today because the market is perceiving them as losers due to an escalating trade war between the U.S. and China, where Trump is going to, you know, levy all these tariffs, particularly against Chinese manufacturers and things like that. But I think that may be a little bit short-sighted. And I did take a position in some Chinese stocks and some call options on some Chinese stocks in recent weeks. Nikki, I think, joined me a little bit on some of those trades as well. But the reason is, well, it's a couple reasons. One, the stocks are some of the cheapest across the globe. Two, the Chinese government is indicating heavy fiscal stimulus is coming, and I think actually there's even rumors that stimulus will be enlarged due to the fact that Trump is now elected as the U.S. president. And so I think there's still a lot of opportunity in Chinese stocks. I think Trump also is perceived as just immediately levying all these tariffs, but I think Trump's a deal maker. He's going to use the potential for tariffs as a negotiation tactic, as a negotiation tool. So I think I don't think you can just black and white today just say it's all going to be tariffs. They're going to be implemented across the board in a month. I think it's going to be more complicated than that. And I think, frankly, that the U.S.-China relations could actually improve under a Trump administration. And I think that's something that people are not thinking about today. I think that Trump could actually, via some of his negotiation tools, and the fact that they want a positive direction in the U.S. economy, I think there could be potential here still for relations to improve and overall for Chinese stocks to move higher. So I think also domestically, Chinese stocks, a lot of them are really just plays on the domestic consumption trend in China, which could be improving with stimulus. So I think, maybe that's a dark horse trade. Maybe it's a contrarian trade, but I still like it here.
Awesome. What are some other, I guess, like direct sympathy plays on the Trump trade? I know, outside of like the meme stonks, anything that could actually get like some juice in the first quarter or first 100 days?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, some of the stuff around the reshoring and the manufacturing side of the U.S. economy, I think companies are going to be more emboldened to make those investments. And so I think you could see some groups of stocks benefit from that. I think that it's tough because some of the obvious ones are already making big moves right today. So I think we're going to be hunting for the ones that maybe are lagging a little bit or that could be like surprising in terms of the benefits. But yeah, I think you've got to look at the American manufacturing and reshoring opportunities. I think you got to look at stuff where regulations have been potentially impeding certain progress. I think, so M&A, companies that are like looking to do M&A or companies that could be M&A targets. I think that could be an interesting area. I'll have to think on it some more for sure over the coming days, but I'm going to be thinking about that pretty hard.
Cool. Yeah, we'll talk about that in the community. Nick, I know something that you wanted to mention was, I guess, just results of the markets over time, no matter who is the president. What do you want to say about this part?
Yeah, I think that everybody needs to remember, no matter if you're waking up today happy or sad based off of the results of the election, generally speaking, the data shows that the markets are going to keep trucking higher, and we're going to continue to see asset appreciation over time, no matter who's in the presidency. So Democrats or Republicans, we've seen markets rally throughout all of these different, presidential times, right? So I would say that people that are freaking out or, Trav, like someone that texted you saying they should go in cash, I think that we need to remember that over time, the markets continue to truck along, and that's because corporations continue to be needed and be profitable, right? So as long as we as human beings need corporations and continue to have innovation in the US, which hopefully we continue to do that, I think that you can basically have a good outlook or a positive outlook for the future in a way that you want to be invested in that and have a piece of that. So it doesn't matter based off the data. Don't freak out. Don't make any big decisions. Even today with this big gap up in the S&P and even in Bitcoin, how we had the big rally in Bitcoin, a lot of this stuff sometimes settles out. So don't look at the prices and think, oh my gosh, this is happening and it's going to continue to happen this way. We got to see what happens over the next few weeks, because price could very much end up pulling back, settling out a little bit, filling gaps, especially in the S&P 500, and, then kind of balancing out and evening out from there. Volatility will kind of die down a little bit. So, that's kind of my take. It doesn't matter who's in office as long as things continue to truck along with the economy, corporations are likely going to benefit from that, and we as investors benefit from that. Of course,
You know,
policies matter, of course, but have they ever derailed us to the point where we can't recover?
well,
Is the
Nick,
question.
I wanted to add, you know what also goes up no matter if it's red or blue in office?
The deficit, the debt.
Yeah, that's true.
The deficit and the debt. And yeah, look, let's see, Biden added 5 trillion, Trump first time around added 7.
Right.
So buy Bitcoin. You know, I think that's the buy assets. Don't sit in dollars. Buy stuff that is denominated in dollars. Maybe like, I don't know, equity in the most profitable companies in the world, and Bitcoin, and land with freshwater access. That's my own little thing.
Yeah.
But
100%. That's why I told this person that had texted me earlier, I'm like, no, going to cash is probably the worst thing you could do at this time, because, you know, if anything, it's like Lynn Alden always says, this train doesn't stop. Nothing stops this train of fiscal spending and inflation over time. So you don't want to be in cash, losing your purchasing power to inflation. You want to be in risk assets that go up over time. And so, yeah, I think that that's basically what I told them. And the deficit, you know, there is an interesting aspect here, though, which is if Elon really does get involved with the Department of Governmental Efficiency, Doge, as he calls it, and starts to really try to take a hard look at what could be eliminated within the federal government. If they actually could get some traction there, you know, they might be able to offset things like the extension of tax cuts or fiscal spending that they want to do. They might be able to offset a lot of that with efficiencies and cutbacks on other stuff. I don't know. I'm still skeptical on whether or not they'll be able to achieve that, especially with Elon being so busy across so many other ventures and companies. But, you know, that could be an interesting angle that may be different in this administration that we haven't seen in prior ones, which is a real focus on ripping out stuff that is just bureaucracy. We'll see.
If Elon has time to play video games, as he mentioned on Rogan, he has time to make the government more efficient and cut the fat. Granted, you know, there was a point made that if fat gets cut, jobs get cut. What does that do for the economy? You know, there's all these questions we can come up with on how that would play out. But generally speaking, I was talking about taxes, the tax cuts. That's a big one. And I don't know how much of that, you know, was on voters' minds, but the Tax Cut and Jobs Act in 2018, we're hoping that it gets extended because it's supposed to expire, these tax cuts, in 2026. So 2025 is the last year of tax cuts, and then a bunch of changes are supposed to happen that would not be beneficial for most, if not all, Americans. To be honest, it's going to impact every tax bracket. Yeah. So that's definitely something that we need to keep our eye on. Maybe Trump ends up extending the tax cuts, and maybe Elon helps the government afford the tax cuts. We'll see. But definitely keep an eye on the Tax Cut and Jobs Act extension.
Yep.
And also keep your eye on these crypto charts. I was just scanning as you guys were discussing that. We've actually got quite a few charts that are showing potential breakouts. So I will be sending out a watch list later in our Discord community to see what is looking juicy out there. Maybe some short squeeze plays.
Ooh.
Yeah, we've also got, watching this hourly on Bitcoin right now. Are we going to get a run into market close today? Let's see.
It's pretty wild. I mean, Coinbase, even today, like some stocks I've seen today have you know, had their morning pop and then kind of faded a little bit. But like things like Coinbase and
ripping,
just like ripping higher with really not a lot of pause or pullback here.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's a gap and go for sure. This is another one that has multi-month resistance here at 280 on Coin is the ticker. And yeah, man, fresh momentum. It's good to see.
Yeah. But we do have a lot of uncertainty still around monetary policy here that I think we can't forget on a day like today. You know, with the Fed meeting, especially tomorrow, and then another meeting in December, and they're going to try to be probably a little bit more hawkish now, given this current environment. There's still wrenches that can be thrown into, you know, the trend, so to speak, like as we move forward through the end of the year. Like, you know, I expect we'll still have a very good year, and we'll end the year with very good numbers across stocks and crypto. But pullbacks, we're not immune to pullbacks all of a sudden, right?
Yeah.
No.
So it'll be interesting.
And then tomorrow, so it looks like the markets are still pricing in a quarter cut. Do you guys, I mean, yeah, that's not guaranteed, but it looks pretty damn likely.
The
Trevor,
Fed
are you
doesn't like.
surprised? at
Yes,
that?
I'm so surprised. I've been telling people in our
Same.
community, I'm surprised these numbers haven't moved at all. Like, given the move that we've seen in bond yields over the past month, I mean, look at the 10-year. Like, the 10-year is saying, like, reflation. The 10-year is like, it's up almost 100 basis points since the middle of September. That's wild. That's almost a full percentage increase in the 10-year since the Fed last met. And then you've also got these other risk assets that are moving. So, like, why would the Fed want to cut at this point? Like, they could skip the November meeting. They've got a meeting in December as well. So I'm just shocked that the market still thinks it's a given the Fed is going to cut 25 basis points. Now, on the other hand, the Fed doesn't really like to surprise the market. So will the Fed just go along with the 25 basis point cut? That's why I think what could happen is, even if they do a 25 basis point cut, I think they're going to signal that, December is probably going to be a no cut, or they're going to just, be very hawkish about, what they want to do going forward. And they'll probably be like, we're going to be very measured. We're going to be very slow, especially given the rise in risk assets and yields. Like, I can't imagine the Fed and Jerome Powell specifically are not going to come out in a much more hawkish tone. We'll have to see, but I am surprised that we're still pricing like a 98% chance of a 25 basis point cut. I would have thought it would have been at least a 10 or 15% chance we're not going to get a cut.
Have you seen many times where the odds were really high for a cut and the Fed surprised and didn't cut?
That hasn't happened in a while. I don't think it's really happened under Powell. And that's why I say, like, maybe he just goes along with it because he doesn't like to surprise the market. But, since the Fed has been giving their forward guidance and leaking their policy through the Wall Street Journal over the last few years, we have not seen a major surprise like that. So, that's why the market probably thinks it's unlikely, but it's not out of the question. We have had central bank surprises, back in the early 2000s and certainly in the 90s. So, just haven't seen it in a few years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. We've got Bitcoin that looks like it's trying to make a run here through $75,500.
Okay.
I mean, it's the technicals are hot. I mean, for people that love charts, Bitcoin is about as beautiful as it gets right now.
I think I might get this printed right here. Just this. I always love when all the time frames line up. The last time I saw this, this beautiful was back in October of 2020, when price was, what was the price down there? It was, right around that 15K, 10 to 12K zone. It was like all the time frames were like shifting. And I said, guys, I think this looks like a loaded spring. And then boom. So the only difference now is we are at all-time highs already, where that was much lower in the market cycle. So, we'll see if we get round 2 of this market cycle into the Q1 and Q2 of 2025. But we've definitely, we've got the narrative, right? We've got the catalyst with the election and for the first time in a long time, a pro-Bitcoin, pro-crypto U.S. government, which, again, we don't have to have for Bitcoin to succeed, but it surely helps. So we can go ahead and start to wrap it up there. I know we've been going for over an hour. Guys, thanks for joining us. Don't forget to like up the video, share it with anybody that you think could get value from it. Thanks for the questions and the interaction. I see you guys. We've actually got a lot more people on X right now. But I know some people are taking the day off to celebrate. Others are rethinking some things. And no matter what you're doing, make sure you make disciplined, balanced financial decisions. If you want to join the community, go to wetalkmoney.com/community. We're doing a live class tomorrow for the crypto group at 2 p.m. Eastern. So right around the Fed announcement, we'll be doing that. And you can listen to this on your podcast or subscribe to the We Talk Money Show. Also, Travis has his own YouTube channel, Stock Geek TV. Nikki is at She Talks Finance. Guys, what else should we shill and plug? What other bags should we pump while we're on here? Oh, Costco coin. We got to look up Costco. What's old Costco doing?
I haven't looked. I don't know if the dogs are running. Let's see.
Are you still holding that bag? What's going on with
Of
Costco?
course, man, always. I'm not letting that bag go. Yeah, no, it's not doing a whole lot. I guess it's up a little bit in the last 24 hours, but it'll be interesting to see just generally if we do get more meme coins popping off with crypto strength. You know, we're definitely seeing alts like Doge and even Uniswap. I noticed, and some other stuff like that where we're popping. But the meme coins, it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, if they also start to get a push here, I'll be watching that for sure.
Yeah, we've got some pretty big moves in like Aave and stuff like that. Pull up that chart. Yeah, Aave is up 25% today. We've been watching this one, which is showing a potential accumulation range breakout. I had this kind of marked up as the bull case where it pulled back to retest the 100 period moving average, and it's getting quite the pop off of support today. So yeah, this is hunting season, guys. If you're a crypto trader or on the stock side, I mean, there's definitely a lot of Momo plays out there right now. So,
yep, love it.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us, Nikki, Trav. Thanks for all the additions and insights. And yeah,
thanks everyone.
Thanks to you guys for sticking with us till the end here. So, yeah, we will catch you guys next time.
Take care, everyone.
See ya.